Google didn't get Nortel's patent portfolio, but it's trying to win out with InterDigital, a firm which holds nearly 9,000 patents that focus on mobile handset technology. But some of Google's competitors, like Apple, Microsoft, and Research in Motion, may get into the mix, making this a war on many fronts. We're joined now by Ron Epstein, CEO of Epicenter IP Group, and joining us in our Washington, D.C. bureau and here in San Francisco to talk about patents and what they mean for the future of tech is Ron Laurie, chairman of Inflexion Point Group. Thank you both so much for joining us here on Bloomberg West. So Ron Laurie, let's start with you. Why are we suddenly seeing so much public sparring going on between Google and Microsoft, et cetera?
Well, I think patents have entered a new phase. The past 5 years or so, people looked at patents as tools for generating licensing revenue, either through litigation or through a licensing program. Patents have now become a strategic tool in terms of controlling, increasing market share. And a point or two of market share in the mobile handset market is far greater than any license fees that can be generated.
Now, Ron Epstein, Google, we know, has far fewer patents than Microsoft, Apple, and other big technology companies. But Google is spinning this to say that patents are bad for innovation. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair. You know, there are many brilliant people who are spending time and effort coming up with some of the wonderful innovations that we all take for granted and make our lives better. But those people, but the process of innovation is expensive and time-consuming, and the innovators, you know, deserve a return on that innovation. Unfortunately, a lot of product development these days occurs through observation. I like to call it innovation through observation. You take a look at your competitor's product, you see a feature you like, you put it in your product. The only way to really prevent innovation by observation from people who are spending real time, effort, and money on innovation is through patents. And the system is necessary to continue to promote that level of innovation.
Ron Laurie, did Google make a big mistake by not being aggressive in patents soon enough?
Well, I think they're typical of companies in the software business. 15 years ago, Microsoft was very, shall we say, anti-patent. The software industry generally doesn't like patents because software is developed incrementally, and patents are designed to protect really disruptive, fundamental innovation. And they tend to get in the way of incremental innovation. But on the other hand, without patents, there wouldn't be any breakthrough, or there'd be much less breakthrough invention. And all we would get is incremental improvement.
Ron Epstein, what's your take on this notion that software is hard to patent or shouldn't be patented?
You know, I really don't understand the perspective that leads to that comment. You know, I think there are wonderful inventions and wonderful innovation going on in software, and I don't really see any way to distinguish between innovation as implemented in software and innovation that might be implemented through transistors, chemicals, gears and levers. The process of innovation remains for each of these areas just as difficult, just as expensive, and just as time-consuming.
Now, Ron Laurie, Google Chief Legal Counsel David Drummond said that any particular smartphone might involve 250,000 patents. Is it really realistic to keep track of all of those?
It's not realistic to keep track, but what we really need is some kind of a mechanism for creating a licensing environment where companies can go to a central source and obtain a patent license that will protect them in producing the product. The problem now is that with individual patent owners approaching a technology company, if they pay 1% of their gross margin to each patent owner and 50 patent owners come after them, they're out of business.
So what kind of thing would you recommend?
Well, there have been proposals for patent pools. People talk about an analogy to ASCAP in the copyright industry, where there's a place to go to get permission to use copyrighted material. It's not going to be easy to do, but I think we've got to have some kind of a mechanism to create sort of a commons, not an open source commons, but a commons where you pay for the right to use it.
Ron Epstein, do you think that the patent system needs to be reformed?
Maybe on the margins, there's some things about the, computer technology generation, and there's some things about the rapid pace of innovation today that might call on some marginal changes to the patent system. But as a system, it fundamentally works, and it works for what it's intended to do, which is to promote innovation.
So,
what's going on today?
Mr. Epstein, in the end, then, is Google going to have to modify Android, or is it going to have to pay up?
Those are two of the three options. One option is to modify Android. One option is to pay up. One option is to possess access to innovation that the other companies with patents need access to as well. Google's very late to the mobile arena game. There are companies that have spent billions of dollars getting us to the point where we have, to the day before Android was introduced, where we had smartphones. Yes, Google came out with a fantastic product, but they're going to have to contribute something to the mobile computing innovation marketplace to trade for access to the innovations they've taken from others.
Ron, Laurie, you've been nodding your head vigorously.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that the option of paying up or taking features out may not be up to Google. It may be up to Apple. The question is, what will Apple do in enforcing the patents?
Exactly, and how expensive could this get?
Well, if it's about market share, and I'm just guessing now because I don't have any inside information from Apple, if it's about market share, they may well force the Android community to take out certain features in order to gain the market share. We're going to have to see. I think, as I said before, if we move from financial return to market share, the game becomes a little different.
All right, Ron, Laurie here in San Francisco. Ron Epstein out there in D.C., thanks so much for joining us on this patent roundtable. We'll continue to follow the war.